Your generous support makes this ministry possible. Thank you.
One thing you'll learn in life is that you have to go to a lot of meetings. And that's essential to group activities. There's elders meetings, there's deacons meetings, women's committee meetings, youth meetings, planning meetings. So really, if you are a leader in the church and on any level, or even in business or in community, you will have to attend meetings. Now, isn't it interesting? Some people spend a lot of time in meetings, and yet they've never had a course or they've never studied how to have good meetings. And I'll tell you, it makes a real difference. I've heard from so many elders that their meetings are boring, they're trivial, nothing gets done, they don't even want to go to them. And so I wrote this little book, Meetings That Work, to try to answer this question to how to have effective meetings. So it is important that you learn how to have meetings. Now, first I want to talk about the importance of elders' meetings, or the importance of any leadership committee meeting. Let me give you 5 points, and my purpose in this is to show you the importance of meetings and give you a better attitude towards them. Many people have a terrible attitude towards meetings. They just, it's like believing that the Holocaust was good or something like that. All right, number one, meetings affect the spiritual life, spiritual health of the church. Meetings affect the spiritual health of the church. In a real sense, the elders' meetings are a critical nerve center of the local church. People are expecting that you're meeting and you're conducting business. Really, meetings are an act of shepherding and leading. While you're in the meetings, you are leading. And I have found over the years there's a direct correlation between good meetings and the health of the church. So there is a connection. You see elders that are having effective meetings, and I'll show you a church that's healthy. You show me elder meetings that are just a complete waste of human time and effort and that accomplish nothing, I will show you a church in trouble and frustrated. So they are important. Second, meetings build character. Now, the goal of every shepherd is to be like the good shepherd, the Lord Jesus Christ. While meetings are going on, a lot of dynamics are going on. And one thing is the building of the participants' character. Meetings are a time to teach us spirit-controlled behavior. Meetings stretch our mind. Issues come up and situations come up you would normally never deal with if you're not in leadership. And so your horizons are expanded and you're tested and stressed. And so I find meetings are a great character builder. You find out your weaknesses, you find out your strengths. It's exposed in front of the whole group. If you have a bad temper, it comes out in front of the group. If you're passive, it'll come out that you don't say anything. You just sit there and complain later after the meeting is over. So really, in a sense, you're exposed. We're all exposed in front of other people. 3, meetings develop leadership skill and godly wisdom. Really, in meetings, we're actually teaching one another. Proverbs 27, verse 17 says, iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. So I have found that you gain godly wisdom by consistently attending meetings that deal with doctrinal issues or people problems or making big decisions. You're building your skills as a leader. You're learning from others as you're in the meeting. And you'll be a better leader in 4 or 5 years of attending these meetings. You'll learn a tremendous amount that you cannot learn in a book. Certain things you can learn in a book, but you can't learn everything from a book. You have to experience. You have to feel the feeling of the meeting, the dynamics of the meeting. Number 4, meetings enhance group morale and accountability. Now, people are more important than meetings. And meetings should have a sense of good relationship, friendship, mutual support of one another. Very important part of meetings is accountability. You know, most of us, if we know that we're going to have to give an account for our phone calls, our visits, a task we were assigned, we'll get them done. If no one's going to call us into account, we're liable to push things off and procrastinate and just not do it. And at heart, we're often very lazy, we're procrastinators, misdirected, forgetful. So the meetings call us into account. Did you do your job? And it's a time to build morale. It's a time to get together and say, you know, we need to do a better job. We haven't been following through with our duties. It's a time of counsel and admonition. Remember, every eldership is its own pastoral council. It counsels one another. It's a time of building relationships, a time of dealing with issues among the members or a personal issue among one of the members. So that's one of its basic goals, is to hold each other accountable and to build a good esprit de corps. Then number 5, meetings train future elders, future leaders. I find the elders meeting one of the best training grounds for future leaders. People get to see how their church is run. What does it take to run a church? What are the decisions that are made? How do different people interact with one another? All of this, very, very important. So, meetings are very, very important, and it is important for training your next generation of leaders. Get them in those meetings. Before a person becomes an elder, he should be sitting with the elders for quite a long while so he sees how the church is run. So, never underestimate the significance of elders' meetings. Meetings should be a time of refining character, sharpening leadership skills, training younger elders, challenging potential elders, seeking God through prayer, growing in wisdom and knowledge of God, enjoying rich fellowship together, laboring on behalf of God's flock. Elders' meetings can bring great blessing to the Lord's people. So, get your mind fixed. Meetings, leadership meetings are essential to any organization. You need to be an active participant, have a good attitude towards meetings. Now that we've established that meetings are important and you need to have a good attitude towards meetings, because you'll be in many meetings throughout your life and understand their significance, now I want to look at helps for achieving effective meetings. As I said earlier, people go to meetings and they're never taught how to have a good meeting or how to be a good participant. So let's look at this now, and you can apply this to any kind of meeting you're a part of. I may emphasize a little bit more the elders meeting or deacons meeting, but don't worry about that. You want to apply it to whatever group meeting you have for whatever purpose. Number 1, principles of good meeting management. Principles for good meeting management. Well, the first principle is keep priorities straight. What is this meeting about, and what are we supposed to be about? So let's say you're in an elders meeting. Well, the elders meeting, I believe, should be about people, about prayer, and the Word of God. That would be their priorities. They have the pastoral oversight of the church. Acts 6:4 says, and we will devote ourselves to prayer and the ministry of the Word. Elder told me this story that he was in an elders meeting for the very first time, and there was a 45-minute discussion on should we use a 60-watt light bulb or a 100-watt light bulb. You see, that wasn't their purpose, to decide what light bulb to use. Let someone else do that. Their purpose is the pastoral care of the people and the ministry of the Word of God. So, for the elders, it would be people. And I would say, really, no matter what kind of meeting, people should be at the focus, because our business is people. We're not building cars. And so your meetings may have reports of important phone calls, people who are sick, difficult situations, conflict with people, coordinating people's activity, maybe having people come in and talk to you, people who are going to be affected by your decisions. They come in and they meet with your committee and you talk with them. So our work is people, and what we're doing as a committee is to make things better for for those who are under our auspices. And then prayer. Now for the elders, prayer will be a central part of the meeting. A good bit of time will be spent praying. But if it's not an elders meeting, there should at least be conscientious prayer for your decisions you have to make, for your energy to do what you need to do, and to ask God to bless your meeting. And then if you're an elder, there will be much to do with the Word of God. You'll have to deal with doctrinal issues. You'll have to deal with questions. You'll have to deal with whether you're going to have evangelism or not, the beliefs, the priority, the mission of the church. So that will be a big part of your meeting. For example, let me just give you an example. In our elders meetings recently, it was a major discussion over the Sunday school material. We felt the Sunday school material was not good. Now, the elders, their key job is the feeding of the flock. Any teaching that goes on in the church, that's directly under their auspices. And so anyone who is a teacher, what is being taught, they need to know. So we had a long discussion about our Sunday school material. Then we delegated a group to look for better Sunday school material and to assess Sunday school material and then come back to us. So we're concerned about what our young people are being taught and the quality of the material. So keep your priorities straight. Identify your priorities. What is this committee about? What are our aims? And who are we answerable to? All those things should be very clear to you so you can do your job. Keep your priorities straight and you don't get sidetracked. Next is develop an agenda. Develop an agenda. It's an old saying that goes this way: a committee keeps minutes and wastes hours. Well, the reason you have an agenda is you don't waste hours. Don't waste your time. Most of you have very limited time. You're busy with many other things. So the agenda guides you. It controls your time. And it will, hopefully a good agenda, really make your time productive and fulfilled and allow everyone to participate in a proper way. Make an agenda open to all. So for example, we have an agenda. People will email in what they want on the agenda. The person who runs the agenda will prioritize things. Next, make the agenda open to all. And anyone should be able to put items on the agenda. Now, some people put items on agenda during a meeting. That wastes a lot of time. You should probably have that done before the meeting. If you want to add things to the agenda, if there's time, you can do that. Or you say, well, put the items on the agenda. We'll deal with them in our next meeting. Now, don't overload an agenda. That's very important. If you've got 2 hours together or 1 hour together, don't put 4 hours work. And so whoever is facilitating the meeting should make a decision about how much can we accomplish reasonably during this meeting, and we'll have to push some items off. What items absolutely have to be dealt with in order to accomplish our evening together or time together? So don't overload an agenda, having a reasonable amount of work on your agenda. Identify special meetings or subcommittees. So for example, this item that we're dealing with, we want to see an improved Sunday school curriculum. Well, we don't have time in our elders meeting, and we don't have even the skill, or probably the interest, to go through all the different material that's out there today. So we decided we need new material, we need better material, we laid out what we were looking for, and then we appointed a subcommittee to go do the work. And they have done a lot of work on this, let me tell you. I'm very impressed with the work they've done. And then they report to us every few weeks where they are with their work, and then finally we have them in and we talk with them and give them new assignments, and we're all working together. But we can't do all that. It's not possible, and we shouldn't be. So on your agenda, you will decide, well, now this particular task will be handled by an outside committee, or by 2 of you who are on this committee. You will handle this and you will report back to us. Now, very important point about agendas. Learn to plan future topics of discussion. Most agendas are crisis-oriented. You don't want a crisis-oriented agenda. 3-4 times a year, as a group, plan what should be on your agenda. So, we discussed the Sunday school material. That was planned months before. that we want to discuss this. It should go on future items for future agendas. So you look at your time ahead. Maybe you're going to meet 6 more times this year before the year is over. Here are some items that we need to discuss. They need to be on the agenda, and we need to be discussing them. So that's how we took up the Sunday school material. It was brought to our attention by the Sunday school people that they did not care for the material. We put it on the agenda. That way you actually take control of your agenda. You're planning the agenda, and the items that you really need to talk about, you get to. So often people say, we never get to the issues we should be talking about. Well, that's your own fault. All right, next. And we'll conclude with this on the agenda. End conclusively. End the meeting conclusively. Meetings can become substitutes for taking action. So it's important for an agenda to include time for summary, conclusions, and assignments. Proverbs 14:23 says this, in all labor there is profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. Don't let a meeting fizzle out like a car fizzling out on gas on a highway. At the end of a meeting, you need to summarize what decisions you have made. Everyone is clear what decisions you have made. And then you need to be very specific who is going to carry out this decision. You need to be very clear, when will this be executed? Everyone agrees on that. We've decided this. Brother or sister so-and-so, they are going to take the initiative in carrying out what we have decided, and this will be done in two meetings. We'll have this done. Now, if you don't do that, at the end of a meeting, everyone leaves and they all go, well, what did we decide? Everyone will have a different opinion what you've decided. Oh, who's going to do this? Well, we don't know. So I guess we're all supposed to do it. And that frustrates people. So, conclude decisively. You have a nice summary. Make it very clear to everyone. Write it out. It should go out in the minutes so everyone knows what is going to happen. This has been said by people who are experts in this area. Most decisions are not an end. Rather, they are part of a process of getting something done. Decisions require action. Someone must do something as a result. So, it's important to be good decision makers, and know how to execute decisions. Clarity is very important. I have personally found that as a leadership body, one of the most important characteristics of effective leadership is good communication, excellent communication. Everyone leads the meeting, you're all on the same page together. If there needs to be any clarification, get it done in the meeting. Make sure everyone understands. Next, so we have priorities, we have develop an agenda, and the next point is identify the role of the facilitator. Priorities, agenda, facilitator. Now, sometimes this person is called the chairman or the moderator. I like the word facilitator. Facilitate means to assist, to expedite. It also conveys the idea of making something easier. The facilitator serves as the contact person for the group and schedules visitors. The facilitator helps the group function more effectively and to make the group interact easier. Hence, he must have an unwavering dedication to serving the needs of the group. A good facilitator can make all the difference in the world for effective meetings. Now, what does the facilitator do? Well, first of all, the facilitator guides and guards the discussion. The facilitator should see that every participant can freely participate. Everyone is treated fairly. He enhances active group participation. He protects the group from the overtalker. You can go to a group meeting and one person literally will do all the talking. Can't stop talking. Or telling stories. I was actually visiting an elders meeting once, and every time someone said something, one of the participants would go off with mama stories. He would tell stories about his mother and the wisdom of his mother. And he would just continually sidetrack the group. Now, a facilitator needs to take that person aside and say, we couldn't get our work done tonight because you keep telling stories. You keep talking. And if the person doesn't listen, then you need to address it as a group. And then if the person will not listen to the group, then it has to be dismissed. Some people overtalk. So the person has something that should take 3 minutes, and they take 20 minutes. And everyone's sitting there dying. You've got to address that. The facilitator's job is to address the over-talker. And then there's the person who doesn't talk at all. They don't say anything in the meeting. The facilitator wants to draw that person out, be an active participant in the meeting. Very important that the group authorizes that person to act for the group. And so when the facilitator has to rebuke or correct, the facilitator says, that's what I've been asked to do by the group. Got to be able to address problems. Now, let's say you have this problem where you have a lot of big, high-powered talkers, and you're talking about something, and they go off on another issue. What you do is say, hey, we have here, right in front of us, future discussion items. That's a good point. Let's put it on for future discussion items. Right now, let's finish our discussion. That way, the person doesn't feel offended. Well, I've got big ideas. I think this needs to be discussed. I was just in a meeting recently with our committee for missions, and we're discussing a very important issue. And this person either wasn't listening to the discussion, but raised their hand and said something completely off the subject and topic. So we just say, well, that's a very good point. We're going to write that down, discuss it another time, but we want to return to our discussion. That's what a facilitator does. Facilitator balances control with flexibility. A discussion has to be controlled. It has to go in a direction and has to develop. And you want to control over-controlling, leaving flexibility, or just a free-for-all discussion. You don't want to micromanage a meeting, but you also don't want it just a free-for-all. And the facilitator nudges the group forward in the discussion. That's why I'm saying to you, a good facilitator can really make a difference. Now, follow through. The facilitator is to make sure that the group follows through with what it says. So it calls the group into account. So next week when you meet together, you made some decisions. You said you're going to do this and that. Next week you come together. Facilitator says, now let's report who got their jobs done this week. Oh, I'm going to have to answer in front of the whole group. That makes you get your jobs done. Answer for my phone calls. Answer for my visit. Answer for what I was to carry out. Something I was supposed to write up. Follow through is very, very important. Getting things done. So often we plan, we say we're going to do something, but no one follows up. It doesn't get done. Things take months and months when they should take weeks. A team approach. Now, there's several ways you can work facilitation. One way is rotation. Every 6 months you have a different facilitator. A lot of groups do that. Now there's advantages to that. Everyone learns the job of facilitation. They learn how difficult it is. Consequently, everyone becomes a better participant because they have had the struggle of facilitating a meeting. Another thing is called a team facilitation. Now this is a very good idea. So one person facilitates the prayer time. One person facilitates quick items. For example, on our agenda, we start out with prayer, a half hour of prayer, and then there's quick items we can move through very rapidly. Someone facilitate that. And then you have major discussions. Now, if someone is good in facilitating complex discussions, keeping everyone moving together, let that person do it. Because if you get a facilitator who can't control the group, does not know how to follow complex ideas, really can't even follow discussion, or falls asleep, or doesn't know how to move the group onto a decision, you're going to be very, very frustrated. So if you're very good at facilitating a group difficult discussion, then let that person do it. Now, if you have two people to do it, then they can take turns. So facilitation is important. Make the facilitator comfortable. Let the facilitator know what you expect of them. Authorize the facilitator to take control of the meeting. And all have to be in agreement to cooperate with the facilitator. So we accomplish what we want to accomplish. And then delegate, 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 delegate. You see this in Acts 6, the 12 apostles, their major goal is prayer and the word. But collecting the offerings, distributing the offerings to the large group of poor people became a great burden to them. And so they appoint 7 men who are to collect the offerings, distribute the offering, take care of the poor widows. Notice how they do this. They set down qualifications. They have the group pick the right men, the right people for the job, for the committee. Then the apostles pray and lay their hands on them. In other words, they give them the authority to go do the job, pass the job off to them, and off they go. So you have to be able to delegate some of your work to other people, authorize them to do their job, check on them, hold them accountable, but let them do their job. And as a committee, learn to delegate to other people. Get other people involved. You know, one of the great skills of leadership is putting people to work. Did you know that? Asking people. Going out and say, would you do this? A lot of people just sort of stand around. They're not self-motivators. They don't take a lot of initiative. But if someone comes to them and says, would you do this job? Would you find the best light bulb for us? I'll be glad to do that. Would you look for the best? Will you go through the Sunday school material and look at Sunday school? I would like to do that. I'm interested in that. Pick the right people, give them their duty, give them the authority to do their duty, and set them free. So a good leadership committee will know how to delegate and get lots of other people involved. You don't want to do everything. Now our last point here is practice self-evaluation. Practice self-evaluation. So many people are afraid of evaluation or self-evaluation. You should have a disposition towards welcoming regularly evaluation. How are our meetings going? Are we getting the job done? What do people think about how we're accomplishing our job? Ask people. Send out a survey. If you're a group of elders, you want the congregation to tell you. Don't think you know. In fact, in our eldership, everything we do, we have a baptism, we have a special activity. After it's done, we evaluate. How can we improve it the next time? We write it down. How can we have a better baptism? How can we make it more outreach-oriented? What did we do wrong? Don't just repeat the same problems over and over and over, year after year, and everyone just throws their hands up in frustration and gives up. No. You evaluate. You always seek to improve. And let me just say this. Everything you do, you can improve on. An eldership is a self-managed group. Most committees are self-managed. So it's your responsibility not to fall into a rut, just do the same old things, and to evaluate yourselves. Evaluate how your committee is going. I would say minimum, once a year, maybe twice a year, totally evaluate your committee. Be honest with one another. Are we doing the job? Are we wasting time? Are we all frustrated? Where are we falling down on the job? Now, we've had good principles of meeting management. That's what we've just covered. Good principles of meeting management. Now we want to look at principles of effective communication. We'll have a whole separate lecture on this, but I'll just make this brief comment. Be concerned about improving your ability to communicate. Every participant should think of how am I communicating? Am I taking 20 minutes to say something that should be said in 5 minutes? Am I an overtalker? Do I not talk? Do I repeat myself over and over and over again? Say the same thing 5 times, 5 different ways. Am I an aggressive speaker? Do I show anger? Do I intimidate other people? Do I make accusations? Am I not speaking up when I should be speaking up? I'll just tell you, good leadership is always good communication. It's a bottom line fundamental principle. And so many elders in the churches think they're communicating to the people and they're not hardly communicating at all. I almost can't emphasize this enough or stress this enough to be thinking about your communication. Then be aware of ways you block good communication. So many ways we block communication. Easily intimidated. We get hurt easily. People don't want to talk to us because they're afraid we're going to respond in the wrong way. We intimidate people, try to talk over people. act sanctimonious to people, patronizing. Be careful of ways that you're blocking good communication. So people don't want to ask you questions. People don't want to interact with you because you intimidate them and threaten them, or just don't listen to them, or block them out, or you don't answer back, or you act very arrogantly. So be aware of how you block good communication. This is something you will work on all your life, not just one time. Now, our third major point. So we have principles for good management of a meeting. We have principles for effective communication. We'll do that another time in depth. And then 3, biblical ground rules for conduct for meetings. Now here's what I mean by this. A, in your outline, you'll see it. Conduct yourself with a Christ-like attitude. Meetings are an opportunity to exhibit Christ-like behavior. All the great principles Christ taught are to be brought into a meeting. Humility, servanthood, forgiveness, loving one another. All of those things come into the meeting. Can I remind you that Christ is present in all our meetings, and we should exhibit His conduct. We are to conduct ourselves in a way that's worthy of the gospel, Philippians 1:27. So meetings should characterize Christ-like virtues and attitudes. Temper tantrums, angry outbursts of emotions, silent treatment, manipulation, threatening talk, derogatory accusations, they are unacceptable in a Christian meeting. Unacceptable. In fact, if a meeting gets out of control and there's anger and there's accusations, stop the meeting right there. Stop the meeting and say, we need to pray at this point. We need to bring Spirit control to the meeting. We are to be people under the control of the Spirit, not under the control of the flesh. I hope you'll have the courage to stop a meeting if it's out of control and the flesh is being exhibited, because people will be hurt, and they'll be hurt for a long time. Christ-like attitudes, Philippians 2 attitudes should be exhibited in the meeting. Now, let's next look at be an active, responsible participant. Be an active, responsible participant. Some people go to meetings and never say a word. Have no paper, no pencil. They just sort of sit there, bumps on a log. They're not active participants. They're letting everyone else do the work. An active participant will be involved in corporate prayer. They will pray, actively participate in the decision-making process. They'll be a good listener, not fall asleep or be looking at their iPhone. Ask for clarification whenever something's unsure. Be sure you're always clear about decisions. Always treat colleagues with a Christ-like respect and honor. Help the group stick to the discussion at hand. Don't have side comments. Don't do your own talking. You'll participate in the conversation. You will work hard in the meeting. You'll welcome assignments. Welcome responsibility. You'll do your homework. You'll research. You will not procrastinate. You'll make the extra effort to be a good participant. A lazy participant, as soon as they hear of an assignment, their head goes down. Oh, Lord, don't let them look at me. They will not welcome responsibility. They want other people to do the job. You be there, sit up straight in the meeting, listen carefully, participate, welcome responsibility, help that meeting in every way you can. Be an active participant. In fact, we've actually had to talk to some of our elders about being active participants. And participate in the meeting. Don't participate out. You know what some people do? They leave the meeting and say, I didn't agree with that. That's unethical, personally. You state your disagreement in the meeting, not outside the meeting. Well, I didn't agree with what they said. You know, like as if that gets you off the hook. Well, why didn't you say something? Why didn't you tell them what you thought? Be a faithful attender. Be a faithful attender. This is so important. Absenteeism destroys a committee. People don't show up. People don't take responsibility. It tells people it's not that important. Show up real late. Don't even call in. If you're going to miss a meeting, call in and say you're going to miss a meeting. Ask for the notes of the meeting. Missing a meeting time after time hurts the entire group. Sets a bad tone in the group. This is not important. And that's especially true in elders and deacons meetings or or committees on a very high level in the church. Your presence is important. Your presence is very important. That's why you're on that committee. I actually book my plane flights around our elders meetings. I make sure, unless I just absolutely can't, I fly in so that I'm there for the elders meeting. I have to fly out. I will fly out after an elders meeting. I try very, very rarely to miss an elders meeting. And if I do miss, I call right in. I let them know I'm going to miss a meeting, and I want to know what has happened. I know this hurts the other members, and it's not their job to guess if I'm going to be there or not be there. If you're not going to be there, call into the facilitator and say, I'm sorry, will not be able to be there. If absenteeism becomes a chronic problem with one of the members, you need to discuss this with this person and not be silent about it and complain behind the person's back. Next, trustworthiness with confidential information. I believe all committee meetings have confidential information. You talk about people, you're assessing people, you want them to do this job or that job, or have they done a good job or not, and who can do this job. Eventually you're going to be talking about people. You are in a position of trust. You have maybe even private information about people. Could be very, very delicate information. You have to learn to protect that information and protect the committee. That's why the scripture warns about this issue of confidentiality. Listen to what Proverbs 25, 9 and 10 says. If you argue your case with a neighbor, do not betray another man's confidence, or he who hears it may shame you, and you will never lose your bad reputation. If you're known as a person who talks too much and spreads rumors and you give out vital information, everyone will see you that way. They will not tell you things. They will see you as a gossip. They will see you as a person who cannot keep trust, cannot hold private information. Now, if you're in an elders meeting, this is even more important, or a deacons meeting, because there you are talking about discipline cases. You're talking about sin. You're talking about people's lives. You're talking about families that are being torn apart. Talking about scandals. And so it's very important that you learn not to repeat that information outside the meeting. In fact, there are certain situations your spouse does not need to hear about. Your spouse is not an elder. She does not need to hear. She needs to be able to walk into the church, look people in the eye, and not say, I know your sins. I know what you've done. Very important that you practice, even now, that you practice not telling everything you know. Practice keeping confidentiality of a friend. People share something with you, and you go and tell someone right away. You can see this in any organization. People go out to lunch, they're spreading all kinds of information around. They're talking about things they shouldn't be talking about, and they can't keep a secret. And they think they're passing on information correctly, and often it's misinformation. It's rumors, or do you know what this person thinks? And the other person thinks your evaluation is fact, and it's not fact. Learn to ask more questions and do more talking. That's a very valuable principle. So you are called to hold confidential information, and also decisions your group has made. It's not time for those decisions to be spread. Just learn not to tell other people. Practice this. Don't be a gossip. Don't be the kind of person who talks too much. So these are some items of importance. Read the book, Meetings That Work. It goes into this in more detail. So our major point is this. Meetings are important. Have a good attitude towards meetings. In meetings, you are leading. You are shepherding. You're doing the work. People are expecting you to do this job. People are expecting that you're going to have good meetings, effective meetings, good decisions will be made, and good decisions will be carried out. That's your job. Take it seriously. Take it before the Lord. You are leading when you're in those meetings. Be an active, positive, contributing member to the meetings. And those who are being led by your committee, they will be blessed.